All right, welcome. Here we are talking to probably nobody or just the folks who can show up on YouTube. It's the first day of Recovery Mondays, a new series that I'm going to do. Today, we're going to go over why you are not broken. Why you are not broken. You are not ill. You're not beyond repair. You're not beyond hope. You're not unfixable. You're not ill. We're going to talk about all of those things. So I know that in the live stream, it's going to be a much smaller audience because at the time of this stream, Facebook is down, Instagram is down, and I believe even Twitter is having some sort of streaming problems. I'm told. I don't know. So we'll make do with what we have. If I have to redo it later, maybe I'll do it for those folks. But at a minimum, we can have a little bit of a conversation. I see 10 people. So good. Pop in when you guys show up on YouTube. Welcome, YouTube. You're the only ones today because I can't stream to Facebook and I cannot post to Instagram just yet because of the outage. But just give me a hello. Let me know where you're coming from and we'll get into this. I've been trying to keep these a little bit shorter, and yet they still wind up 20, 25 minutes. So I am going to try and keep this one a bit shorter, right? And yes, I will save it. That's true. I'll save it, and then I will post it to Facebook later on. So their loss. But I'm glad you guys are here. There's 11 of you here on YouTube. Thanks for coming by. I appreciate it. Bethany says during the apocalypse. Yes, the great social media apocalypse of 2021. So let's talk about this. Why are you not broken? One of the most common fears that come along. I mean, and look, these anxiety problems that we talk about all the time, we're just loaded with fears, right? There's nothing but fears of your own body, fears of your own thoughts, fears of your heartbeat and your breath and intrusive thoughts and scary thoughts. But one of the most common fears that we don't talk about, it's very meta in a way, is fear of the disorder itself and fear of the idea that you can't get better. Like you are broken, you are damaged, you are ill, and that it will not get better. But that's not true. That's absolutely not true. So, and I want to talk about that now. So, if you're worried that you're not going to get better, or that you're definitely broken, or you're mentally ill, or you're damaged, or something like that, then I am absolutely talking to you today. Why are you not broken and ill? First of all, sometimes this is a bit controversial, but I'm going to say it anyway. I tend to not look at anxiety as a mental illness. Now, some people really get angry when I do that, and I'm not sure exactly why. If you would like to think of this as some sort of mental illness or disease, then by all means, you are welcome to do that. I don't happen to share that view, but that's my opinion. You can disagree with me if you'd like. Here's why I say that, and here's why I say you're not really broken. You've simply learned to be afraid of things that you actually don't have to be afraid of. Now, don't let me tell you that these things are not scary or worthy of fear. They are. Like, these things that you experience are very scary and they're very uncomfortable, and they seem like you should be afraid of them. And they kind of seem like you should begin to restrict your life and work around these things to try and make them not happen. Right. So if you are plagued with all the body sensations and the panic and the anxiety and the panic attacks and the thoughts that are scary and intrusive and you can't stop them, it would make sense that you would try to get away from those things and stop them from happening and try to prevent all that and make it all go away. So I do get that. I really do. However, that does not necessarily mean that you have an illness or that you are broken or that you're doing something wrong or that this is your fault. None of it is your fault. So how did you get here? And really and truly, like, this is all out of chapter 1 of The Anxious Truth, which is the book that you see in the corner here. So that's the book that I wrote last year. That's my recovery guide. And why are you not broken? Like, because you have simply experienced some scary things that your body has thrown at you, but they are natural and they are normal. Humans think. Sometimes those thoughts get a little sticky and loud. Humans have bodily reactions to fear. Sometimes those bodily reactions get exaggerated and they happen when they're not appropriate. Humans have threat detection and response systems, and sometimes those get activated when they're not supposed to. So these are all very natural things, and they're normal things, just triggered at the wrong times. Or you may be in a situation in your life where maybe your resilience is a little bit low and maybe you're under the gun in terms of stress, and therefore some thoughts might get a little stickier on you than they do at other times in your life. So that's why these are not necessarily, in my view, these are not illnesses, because illness implies something has happened to you that is beyond your control, that you can do nothing about unless some external force is introduced that will cure it or make it go away. Then that's simply not the way this works. And it's not only my opinion. We have just tremendous mountains of real world evidence in many, many cases from all around the world for many, many decades that tell us that these types of problems are treated very effectively with cognitive behavioral therapies and their variants, CBT, ACT, DBT, metacognitive therapy. Like these things work really well in these cases. And those wouldn't really work if you were broken or had some sort of actual illness in the traditional sense of the word. So that's why I say that you are not broken. You have learned, and understandably so, to be afraid of certain things that your mind and body are doing. However, you don't necessarily have to be afraid of them. And the way out is to unlearn that fear response, right? So you have to learn through experience that you don't necessarily have to be afraid of those things, even though they are absolutely scary and uncomfortable. I will validate that all the time. They are scary and uncomfortable. And doing this makes it really difficult, right? Because you're actually going against what some people, survival instincts, air quote. So it makes it really hard to do, but it doesn't make it impossible. And these things do not mean that you are broken. And again, none of this is your fault. All of us sort of experience these things. Almost all human beings experience these things from time to time. But for some reason, for some of us, they become a little stickier. So many people have panic attacks at least once or twice in their life, but not all of them develop panic disorder. People develop panic disorder and don't develop agoraphobia. Why is that? I don't know. Nobody knows. That's kind of the $1 zillion question, right? But the bottom line is that what you're experiencing is not a horrible illness or an incurable disease. You don't need somebody or something to be introduced to cure this. There's no defect going on. You've learned to be afraid of certain things, and there is a way out of that. And millions upon millions of people have done this and actually found the way out of that over many decades, right? So this is not new. I'm not making this up. This isn't my own special system or method or anything like that. This is just science. This is what we know to be true based on a very large population sample across multiple cultures all over the world for a very long period of time. So while you may be incredibly afraid and incredibly uncomfortable and feel like you are broken or damaged or that there's no way to fix you, the reason it's first of all, it's understandable because these things really are very impactful in our lives. It's 100% understandable why you would feel that way. But the error in that judgment starts to be when you think, well, I have to try to stop it from happening. Right. So part of the reason that people think that they are broken or damaged is because they can't seem to fix it. Right. So part of it is that they can't seem to fix it. But the problem is the definition of fix. So when I say that we have a very large sample and a very large data set that tells us that people can get out of these problems, they get out of the problems when they stop trying to fix it in the sense of make it go away. So when you are trying to fix it, figure it out. If I could figure out my triggers, if I could figure out what I have to avoid, if I could just stop these things from happening, if I could stop my heart from beating so quickly, if I could stop having that thought about harming my child, or if I could stop having that thought about this, or I could stop ruminating so much, or I could stop having that short of breath feeling, if I could stop all these things from happening, that I'll be fixed. And when you can't do that, because it's really hard or almost impossible to do, to address it that way by trying to stop it all instantaneously, then you will logically come to the conclusion that you are broken and that nothing is working. So I'm sure a fair number of you watching, whether you're live or watching on a replay, would probably say, well, I feel like I'm broken because I've tried everything and nothing works. But you have to understand that it's not your fault that nothing worked. Nothing was going to work because you were trying to address the problem by pointing at the wrong target. Like that's really important to understand. And my heart goes out to you because I understand how you might feel and you might think that you are absolutely 100% broken and cannot be fixed. You're damaged, you're ill. I have a mental illness, because every time you try to manage your anxiety, or you try to control it, or you try to stop it, and you can't, you fail at any consistent level, it would definitely lead you to believe that there's something seriously wrong with you, and you would start to lose some hope. So I get that. So the message today really is we hit the 10-minute mark, and then I'll see if I take a couple of questions from the audience here, which again, thanks you guys for coming by. But yeah, if you, this is why it leads people to believe that you are broken. But the reason why you are not broken is that there is actually a way, a path to get out of the corner that you're stuck in right now. It's just generally not the way that you would want, right? Because it's an uncomfortable way. It's a difficult way. It's a very counterintuitive way. And in many instances, as we do these Recovery Mondays, we're going to do these every Monday, right? And we're going to take lessons right out of that book, The Anxious Truth. We're going to go right out of that, and I'll give you samples as we go. But we're going to talk about why all the things that you've tried and the advice that you've been given has not worked for you. So leading you to believe that you are somehow specially broken or worse than everybody else. So when I say broken, I would also say a lot of people kind of think like, oh, this is clearly because I'm worse than everybody else. This can't work for me. I'm worse. So that's a very, very, very common feeling too. But the path out is just not the one that you want. It might not be the one that you were looking for. It's not the most comfortable one. It's very counterintuitive. It doesn't seem like common sense. So there have been many times in the social media community when I've run across somebody who is maybe new to the podcast or hasn't seen me before, and they'll hear me say things like, you have to learn to willfully, like Josh Fletcher says, willfully tolerate anxiety, or I'll say you have to surrender to it. And some people will hear that for the first time and get really angry with me, very angry. Like, you clearly have never experienced this. You don't know what it's like. You don't know what it feels like. And that doesn't make me angry. I understand that they want to disagree with me. They think that I don't understand. They think that I've never felt it because I would say something like that. And the idea that the way out is so counterintuitive and so opposite from what you want and so difficult because you have to be willing to be intentionally afraid and uncomfortable is what leads people to believe, well, I don't want to do that. I don't want to accept that solution. So therefore I stay in the conclusion that I'm broken, but you're not. I promise you're not. I feel you, but you're not broken. Okay. So about 11 minutes, I'm going to try and wrap it up in 15 minutes or less. So let's see if we have any comments from YouTube. Thank you, YouTube. I don't spend enough time on YouTube, but I'm glad that we're changing that. So let's see what we have here. And by the way, I will put up, and yes, I'm going to do this because that's the way it goes. But if you are interested, if you do not have this book, The Anxious Truth, and you are not sure what to do, like you're lost, you're confused. I literally started the book with those words. You're lost, confused, afraid, and don't know where to turn and directionless. Then, oh, why did I do that? It blanks my screen. I forgot to turn off my app that does that. Okay. So if you're not really sure where to start, this is all new to you and you're thinking, I've tried everything, nothing works. How do I, and you want to ask those individual questions, how to overcome shortness of breath, how to overcome heartbeat, how to overcome DPDR. I would strongly suggest you either listen to all my podcasts, those are 100% free, or go and pick up a copy of that book. Because all of these concepts that I talk about are laid out in that book in very great detail. I spent a long time writing that book and it's incredibly detailed. So let's see here. I feel a crashing feeling in the afternoons, which causes odd sadness at times. So I'll put these up here. I see two things. You guys can't see each other's comments, so I'll just kind of call them out. So I see two things. I feel a crashing feeling. Okay, that's a feeling. So you feel a certain way, which causes odd sadness. Okay. So you are changing. What happens is the way you feel changes and your emotions kick in and you may feel a little bit of a sadness or a low mood. The issue here is not necessarily that, right? I mean, unless that I'm missing something and you're suffering from clinical depression, which I'm guessing you are not because you didn't say that, but it is 100% normal for us to change the way we feel involuntarily many, many times throughout the day. I'm in a good mood. I'm in a bad mood. I'm happy. I'm sad. I'm neutral. I'm nothing. Like that changes all day long. All day long, we react to external stimuli and our mood changes and our state changes. Our physical feelings change. All of those things happen. The problem here is that when you say, well, I feel a certain way, I don't like feeling that way. And then I start to feel sad and I begin to analyze why I feel sad and I'm afraid to feel sad. And what does that mean? Does it mean I'm depressed? Is something wrong with me? That's the problem. The problem here is your reaction to this, which is the basis of all of this stuff. Okay, see, so it makes me question whether it is anxiety or something else and triggers anxiety. So trying to figure out what this is because you're unwilling to simply accept that, like, well, maybe you will know what it is. You know, if you have a fight with your partner and that makes you upset, well, that would be a very clear thing. Like, I am really upset because I had a big argument with my partner, or I'm really upset because I got let go from my job today. Like, okay, that would be obvious. But when your mood changes and you feel like, oh no, I have to know why to be safe from my mood and my feelings, and you can't identify that, then yes, you will interpret that as the mood change itself and the emotion itself becomes the danger. So instead of saying like, oh yeah, the problem here is the big fight that I have with my partner, you can't find the problem and you are afraid of that change in state. So you will say that the problem is the change in state itself. And that's very circular, right? And it feeds the next episode. And again, it leads people to believe that they are broken. So let's see here. Put this up on the screen here. Maybe be easier for everybody. Let's know what you feel changed about yourself when you gain recovering through panic disorder. I like to hope that going through it might make me a stronger person and life easier. Okay. Well, I mean, the book that I'm writing now, which will be out next year sometimes, is called Lessons from the Panic Zone. That is all about the lessons that I learned as part of this process. And yes, In retrospect, there were many silver linings, and I did not get the old version of me back. I got a better version of me back. So we'll talk about that. But that is a very common experience. Many people who go to the other side of this will look back and say, oh yeah, like I learned so much and I'm actually a better person now because of it. It doesn't make it any easier now because you're really suffering. And I understand you're under the gun and you're feeling like there's no way out. But on the other side of that, you may find, as is very common, I and many others have found this, like, oh, that experience actually was a net plus for me in the end. But again, I posted about this on social last week. Do not let anybody tell you that there's a silver lining to how you're feeling right now, because right now you can't see that. So none of this toxic positivity, like this is going to make you stronger. You'll see that after. But for now, I understand you're struggling. What changed for me, to be honest with you, was I literally said I would prefer to just die than to continue to live like this, skipping things, skipping out on my family events, not being there for my daughters, not paying attention to my business, not being engaged with my family. I didn't want to do that anymore. So I was backing away from everything because of this fear, and anxiety was telling me that I was in danger all the time. I basically decided the discomfort of being isolated and disengaged and feeling like I was failing at everything, that discomfort was way worse than the temporary discomfort of enduring a panic attack, because a panic attack would be really uncomfortable for 10, 15, 20 minutes. If it was undulating and came in waves, maybe throughout the days I'd feel sort of spikes of that. But then when I would retreat and run back home, or refuse to do something or cancel something or miss out on a business opportunity, the discomfort on an emotional level of that just piled up and got deeper and deeper was way worse than the panic. So for me, I decided, pick your discomfort. I will choose to be temporarily uncomfortable in anxiety and panic as opposed to permanently uncomfortable because I'm stuck on my sofa. That's what changed for me in a big way. So let's see here. Oh, I see. This is a follow up on the first thing. Yes, I'm focused on some deep fear of depression again. So it's not the fact that you are experiencing a change in mood. It's that you are seeing your mood itself, not as a natural variation that humans have, but as a sign of something bigger. And that's another thing that leads people to think that they are broken, because we somehow think that the anxious feelings and sensations or the thoughts that we have are more than sensations and thoughts. We think that they are omens or indicators or predictors, and they are not. And they are not. But that would lead you to believe like something is really wrong here because I feel like something is wrong. And when you can't put your finger on it, then it leads you to believe that like I'm never going to figure this out. And if I can't figure it out, then it means I'm stuck and I'm broken and I can't be fixed. But the reality of this is we get better when we actually stop trying to figure it out. I know, very paradoxical, but it is what it is. What's the connection between anxiety and lightheadedness? So I'm not actually going to answer that, but I'm going to put it up on the screen. Why? Because in the beginning, and you may be new in this journey, this is a good question, right? So this is the difference between assurance, like productive assurance, which we would call teaching or learning. And like part of a job of somebody like me is to provide that psychoeducation and help you to learn, like teach you, right? But once you've heard the answer to this once, twice, three, 10 times, and you've asked a million people why you get lightheaded, and people tell you, well, it's an anxiety symptom. So my short answer to this is it is an anxiety symptom, right? It's very, very, very common, to the point where we have common phrases in the English language. Like I was reeling, reeling. The room was spinning. I thought I would pass out. This is not things that just people with anxiety say. Like these are very common things that normal, air quotes, normal people say when they get bad news or they get really excited or they're in danger. Like, oh my God, the room was spinning. You've heard people say that. So this is just the way the human body reacts to that, to those type of stimuli. The problem comes when you do not accept that explanation, or that's not the one you want because it doesn't give you certainty and it doesn't make it go away. So you just keep coming back and asking again and again and again. That's the issue. That's unproductive reassurance. And one of the reasons why people think that they are broken while they are not is because they don't understand that that sort of pattern of trying to fix it that way by asking those questions about specific symptoms again and again, trying to seek 100% certainty and reassurance, that's the wrong path out. And it makes you feel like you can't get better because it's not working for you. Asking those questions isn't working, right? So let's see here. I have been, okay, let's see what Jim has to say. A couple more minutes here. I thought I was going to do 15. I ain't going to do 15. I just don't have the ability, it appears. This is good. We can still have 22 people. I'm glad you guys are here. I've been unbroken for quite a while. Excellent. However, I worry about the crack in the healing that will lead to broken. Okay. that is a like a confidence and recovery problem, right? So if you've been working this thing for a while, then those repeated experiences, and this is a little bit more of an advanced topic for those of you who are further along the line in recovery. So as you have repeated experiences, surrendering to anxiety, willfully tolerating it, floating, accepting, whichever terminology you like, as you get better and better at that, and you learn experientially, like, oh, I can handle this. I can handle being afraid. I can handle being uncomfortable. I can handle having disturbing or uncomfortable thoughts and just kind of floating through them and navigating through them. I can handle all those things. You start to build a sense of competence. Like, I can handle this. I can handle this. So first is the courage, right? I did this a couple of weeks ago, the 3 C's. Courage is what makes you start doing that. Going from like, oh, I need my lavender oil and a pill to stop it from happening, to I will let it happen and try my best to navigate through it. That's courage. When you do that enough times, you discover, oh, I can do that. That's competence, which is, Jim, probably where you are. And then when you continually have that experience and you vary it across multiple contexts, so you keep having that experience in the supermarket, home alone, at a wedding, on a long drive, whatever, at work, giving a speech, whatever, giving a presentation, at school, taking a test, whatever, you keep having those experiences in multiple contexts, then you start to build confidence, which is, confidence says that there's no crack that's going to lead to broken, because this is a wide and deep recovery that is portable across multiple contexts and durable. So you just have to keep going and recognize that the thought that you might have a crack in your recovery that will bring you back to broken is just a thought. It's not a predictor that that will happen. All right. So let's see here. No, 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 no. Okay. So Nanette says, I always feel unhelpable because I've been agoraphobic for 16 years. It's okay, Nanette. I know many, many people who have suffered for a very long time with these things. It's not pleasant, right? It's not good. And it makes you think that you can never be fixed. I did a podcast episode on this. If you go to theanxioustruth.com, it's one of there's a search bar, and there's a search tool, and the episode is called "You Can Recover No Matter How Long You've Been Suffering," something like that. It's probably back in the last 6 or 8 months, but I did an episode on that. It doesn't matter. I mean, it does matter because it's 16 years of your life, and I feel for you, but it doesn't mean you're unfixable. I promise. Let's see. Red Dog. Good name. I think that's it. Are we running out of comments here? It's a great book, says Mark. Thank you. That's this book here, I assume, Mark, you're talking about. Yes, thank you. So I like to think that it is a very helpful book. So if you don't have that book, you can go to theanxioustruth.com/recovery guide. All the ways to get it are there. It is on Kindle, paperback, through all kinds of places, and audiobook. So you're welcome to it. Let's see. My son. Oh, this is always heartbreaking. I'll take one or two more, and then I really do have to wrap it up. Let's see here. San Diego, Johnny's here. No. Bought it in audio form. Excellent. Let's see here. I'm really worried about shallow breathing. It really upsets me. Okay. Well, a lot of people are afraid of shallow breathing. It's one of the most common things. I did a podcast episode on that. If you go to theanxioustruth.com, hit the search tool and search for breathing and breath, you'll see that I did an episode entitled Breathing and Breath Centered Anxiety. Feeling like you cannot breathe is not the same as not being able to breathe. So I will send you to that podcast episode and avail yourself of it. There's a lot of good information in that. It will address what you're talking about. Fear of dying, says Chris Peterson. I literally just did an episode not too long ago. Again, go to theanxioustruth.com, hit the search tool at the top of the website, and search for death and dying. And you will see a podcast episode I did on my fear of dying and how that resolved for me. This is good. So Tanya, this is always heartbreaking when somebody talks about their kids. And you know what, Tanya, I appreciate that you are like concerned and certainly advocating for your son. My son has been having a lot of anxiety when in school. Should I approach it the same as we do here? Again, this is going to sound like a broken record. I did a podcast episode about 6 or 8 months ago with Dr. Jackie Bogdanov. I'm Instagram connections with her. She is child behavior doc on Instagram. But if you go to my website and search for child, children, family, you will see that episode. The short answer, according to Dr. Jackie, is yes. Generally speaking, the same exact rules apply. You have to remember, though, depending how old your child is, we may need to give them more help and present these concepts in an accessible form that they will be able to understand, given their level of maturity and their mental development, right? So it's one thing to explain these concepts to a 17-year-old or a 13-year-old very different in explaining them to a 6-year-old, right? Or a 5-year-old. So Dr. Jackie talked about that, but yes, generally speaking, the same rules apply. And a lot of it has to do with also as a parent, the way we model this and the way we react to their anxiety. So Dr. Jackie talked about it. It was a really good episode. Just check it out. I'll do one more and then I'm wrapping it up. I promise. During your recovery, were there times that you couldn't go through with an exposure or left during? Okay. This is like a total broken record here. I did a podcast episode called What Do You Do When You Fail? Or what do we do when we fail? So again, go to theanxioustruth.com, use the search bar, and you will find that. Generally speaking, were there times that I did not do an exposure? No, I don't think that there were times. And then look, that was a while ago, so I could be wrong here, but nothing is sticking in my head in terms of a time when I bailed on an exposure. There were twice when I was sick, like I had the flu and I was really sick. For about 4 or 5 days. I did not. For the first 2 days, I tried to go out and do my exposures because I was stupid. That was dumb. I should not have done that. There was no reason for me to do that, but I missed some stuff when I had a nasty flu for about a week that winter, I remember, but I didn't ever not do my exposures. There were times when I did exit them early. And what I learned from those experiences is if I just went home and left it and ended it that way, it was worse. So what I learned was I would go back home if I did that, and I would get myself together and I would go back out and do it again. And the second time for me was always much more of a success. And that was a valuable experience. The act of bailing, getting myself together and going back into it and having a more positive outcome. The positive outcome, by the way, was not, I wasn't anxious. It was that I moved through the anxiety. That was really helpful. So yes, if you fail because you say bail, for instance, going back out and doing it again after you regroup is a good idea. But I did a podcast episode on that called What Do We Do When We Fail? All right. So let's see here. The breathing question, so many. Jen, how bad can hyperventilating get? In a nutshell, if I just started, if I just did that for the next 45 seconds, you'd probably see me fall off the frame because I would probably pass out. And then once I passed out, my body would begin to breathe normally again. So how bad is hyperventilating? Nobody ever died from hyperventilating. It's again, that thing where now you feel like you can't breathe. So you start panting and trying to fill your lungs all the way. Just go to check that podcast episode, Breath and Breath Centric Anxiety. You'll see. Okay, guys, that's about it. Thank you, Bessie. You're very welcome. I'm glad you think that I rock. So that's it. That's it for this one. We did okay. 22 people, even though half of the social media universe is out today. I appreciate you guys coming by. We are going, I'll put this back up on the screen if you want to copy that book. This is what we're going to do every Monday. We're going to do another lesson out of The Anxious Truth. There are many, many lessons. So this series is going to go on for quite a while. So next Monday at the same time on YouTube and Facebook, and then I will post it to my Instagram, my IGTV afterwards, whenever Instagram gets its act together again today. Thank you all for coming by. I appreciate it. And if you have comments and questions, keep them coming. I will do my best to try to answer them. And yeah, see you guys next week. Thanks for coming by. Hope it was helpful.